Welcome into another edition of the JMU Sports News Podcast. I am Bennett Conlon, joined by Jack Fitzpatrick. And Jack, the Dukes, they went on the road, didn't go great. They're 8-3.
Yeah, it was a real bummer, and there's a lot of things that we'll probably talk about. There will probably be some emotions worn out on our sleeves in today's podcast. It might just kind of act as a therapy session, letting out the annoyance. I think the annoyance is probably the best word that I felt after that game. It wasn't really anger. It wasn't like upset. It was just like, ugh, like really, like how'd you let that slip? You were up 14-0. You were up 14-3, driving to go up 21-3, step on their necks and really just win the game and just put yourself firmly in control of it. Although we do know a 28-3 lead is not safe in Boone. So a 21-3 lead, you can't assume is safe, but it feels a whole heck of a lot better than falling points. So we'll get in. It was just a real bummer of a game.
It was a disappointing showing after a red hot start. Looked like it might be a blowout for a bit.
Yeah, BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform. Don't Google that. And your number one source for all online betting. From the earliest odds to in-game live betting, BetOnline provides you with all the action and the ability to watch games as they happen. With the largest selection of odds on everything from football, NBA, and college basketball, NHL to UFC and MMA. Head to BetOnline today to get in on the action with America's most trusted site for online wagering. BetOnline, the game starts here. All right, where do you want to start this podcast? How do you want to? I'll let you take it. Do we start with rants? Do we start with opening rants, or do we go from there? Do we talk refs because that was maybe the worst officiated game I've ever seen in my life, and I've seen the Seahawks play in Super Bowl 40? Where do you want to go?
Let's start rant. You said you had a rant. You said you had some stuff you wanted to say.
Okay. I'll get this off my chest at the start, and this will set the tone for the remainder of this podcast. This season is good, right? Like this was a good season for JMU. And it still is. They still have the opportunity to go out and beat Marshall. But this season wasn't great and is not great. And I'm not, maybe I'm just getting annoyed, but like you start with the win over UNC, a Power 4 opponent. They're now bowl eligible. You started 4-0. That is good. Check that off. You did what you needed to do. But then the next 7 games, you go 4-3. You still have a chance to go undefeated at home for the first time in the FBS era. You can go to a bowl game, potentially win it, get 10 wins. You get double-digit wins for the second time in 3 years since moving up to the FBS. Also, really good. You're doing that with a new head coach, a new staff, a new team, and you're doing it with a redshirt sophomore quarterback. All of those things are good achievements. You're doing it with the odds stacked against you. Because you can look at the other team in the Sun Belt who lost their star head coach, the Troy Trojans. They're 3-8, 2-5 in Sun Belt play. They look like a shell of what they were under John Summerall. So I'm comfortable in saying that everything around JMU, all of it is good. But if we were if you rewound back to December 7th, 2023, which is the date that Chesney was officially announced as the new coach, and you sent me back, and future me is standing in front of past me and tells past me how this season would play out record-wise, past me would have been ecstatic knowing that you're sitting where you are now at 8-3, would have been happy with everything that we know. But that's where the argument falls apart. And that's where I have an issue. We've experienced the last 11 months. We've experienced all of the positivity from Chesney. We've experienced the hyping up of expectations, not tampering down, hyping up expectations. We experienced this team scoring 70 points against UNC, a Power 4 bowl eligible team. And not to mention the next game, they scored another 63 points. And over those 8 quarters of action, they scored 18 touchdowns. We experienced all of that. What we have experienced and what we know now is not the same as when Chesney was hired on December 7th, 2023. So, yeah, you may have been very excited if I had gone back to past me and said you're going to be 8-3 going into the final game of the season. Yeah, on December 7th, that sounds great because you know all the uncertainty around the team. but we've experienced the last 11 months, which makes 8-3 feel good, not great. And frankly, I'm upset. I'm a bit perturbed. I'm a bit annoyed at the coaching staff in general because I was told this team played the name game. It helped bring them together. It got them ready for the season, right? I was told they were ahead of schedule. The coaching staff and Bob Chesney never tempered the expectations. Instead, they poured the high expectations into this fan base. We all were excited. We saw them score 70. And I'm not saying that as like a bad thing that they scored 70. How dare they go out and do that? But what I'm saying it is like they showed what the ceiling is. And all of those expectations, it was never dampened in the offseason. It wasn't dampened at any point really in the season. And the standard, whatever that standard is that JMU fans have decided that the standard is this week, regardless of whatever it is, has not and will not be met this season. The championship goal is gone before the Dukes even suit up for the final game of the season. That's not meeting the standard. And to make matters worse, they got their championship hopes taken away from them against our biggest rival after going up 14-0. They were on the precipice of going up 21-3, truly stepping on their necks, breaking their will, and keeping their championship hopes alive. Instead, they didn't do that. They didn't do that again. They had the opportunity against ULM, and they let it slip out as well. 8-3 is good. 8-3 is not great. This is a good building block heading into next season. And there's reason for tremendous hope going into next year. But right now, after what I experienced, after what I've been told, I didn't want hope. I wanted championship. Like after everything Chesney was feeding the media, I was expecting championship, not hope for a championship next year. And for me, that is a failure that rests on the shoulders of Chesney and this coaching staff. And it's why I was so upset after that App State game.
That's well said. I think that's perfectly said, right? It's the messaging throughout the summer, throughout early in the season, all of it has been really, really positive. The only time they took kind of a step back was Gardner-Webb when they were like, oh, well, a lot of new players, a lot of new faces.
But even then they said, this isn't the JMU standard that we hold ourselves to. Like they were like, there's a lot of new people, but we understand what this school is, what this culture is. Like you tempered them, but you didn't really.
That's true. And then they bounced back, obviously, with the huge win over North Carolina. They haven't done a lot messaging-wise, the coaching staff, to temper expectations. The media hasn't pushed a lot on areas where they've struggled. So we had pretty fluffy stories, I would say, throughout the offseason, right? Of like their brotherhood, their family, they're bonded. They were kind of force-feeding the story down our throat that like they liked playing for Chesney more than Signetti. Like Signetti practices were sad and dull and there's no music and he won't even let them think about music or talk about music or consider music. And like it was just like they made it seem like it was like this weird dictatorship where everybody was miserable. And I don't think that's true. But that was kind of like the storyline coming out of the media. Is like, wow, they're having so much more fun. They're having so much more fun. No, and we were kind of saying this maybe more so behind the scenes than on the podcast. Fans don't actually care how much fun they're having at practice. They care what happens on 12 Saturdays a year, right? So again, it's been a good year, but to lose by double digits to Georgia Southern and App State, to lose games to ULM and App State despite having double-digit leads in both is disappointing given the ceiling of this team. Because it would be different if they tempered expectations and they took like what we thought was going to be a 6-6 team and made them 8-4. But the way they were playing, the way they were talking about them, people thought this was a 10-2 team that might go 8-4. So like the messaging is huge. And I don't know if they totally grasp that. And I think some of that's probably like the FCS stuff where there's not a whole lot of Holy Cross coverage or internal expectations, right? Like there aren't Holy Cross fans who are like, the standard is the standard. I think they're like, oh my, look at us. We have a good football team. Have fun. Like JMU's way past that point. They expect to win games. They expect to be competitive. So when you lose to your rivals in kind of like disappointing, borderline embarrassing ways, in ways where you're making just dumb mistakes, like you don't block the A gap on a punt, that's tough in game 11. Like that's, and Chesney knows this, like the coaching staff knows all that, but it's still really disappointing. And fans are fair to be upset because they've talked about themselves like this, juggernaut of a G5 team. Well, I pulled it up and I wrote it in the story, but like Matt Rowan went on sound off in October after they beat Coastal. So I think they were 5-1 at that point, maybe. Because 4-0,
Yes.
right? Lose to ULM. So I think they were 5-1. And he said, there's nothing like mid-major about JMU. There's nothing G5 about this place. And he like is correct to say that in many ways, where like the facilities at ULM and the resources between ULM and JMU, like JMU's not that kind of G5. But when you say that stuff on like a popular fan podcast, fans are going to be like, oh, we're a P4 team. Like that's how that gets processed. So if you beat a P4 team and you say you've got like, you're more P4 than G5, and then you take a double-digit lead against 4-5 App State, can't block the A-gap on a punt and blow it very fast, the fans are going to be mad. So I think I don't know, there's been a little bit of policing of fans where it's like, how are they upset? It's like, people are mad because you've sold them that this is a great team in a P4-esque program. So they want to be with Boise State, UNLV, Tulane in that conversation, and they're not. Not only that, they're third in the division.
Like you are out of the championship race before the season is over. And I know you're playing for so much on Saturday. You're playing for an undefeated record at home, which is awesome. Like you have yet to do that at the FBS level. It is tough to win 6 home games, regardless of where you are. Like whatever, if you're a low major, a G5 mid major, or if you're a P4 type of team, like it is tough to win all of your games at home, just as tough as it is to win your conference championship. But like that is the goal. That is what every fan says. If we're trying to figure out what the standard is, when fans are saying the standard is the standard, it's winning championships. It's competing for championships more so. And they're not competing for a championship this Saturday when Marshall comes to town. They're competing in a spoiler role, which is still super fun. And you're still competing for an undefeated home season, and you're still competing to get to 9 wins on the year, and you're still competing for a good bowl game, and you're still competing to get to double-digit wins for the second straight year in a row, and for your second time in your 3 years as an FBS team. All of that is great, and all of that you would have taken 10 times out of 10 if you were told this would be the outcome 3 years from now when JMU made the announcement they were going up to the Sun Belt. And I think that's where it is. Like, yes, this is a great outcome, but we've experienced the last 2 years, 2.5 years, 2 years of Signetti, and now nearly a full season of Chesney. And based off of all of our experiences, we expect to be championship contenders. We expect to be the cream of the Sun Belt crop. And now you're sitting here out of the championship altogether. You've won it really, for all intents and purposes, the last 2 years, and now you're not even competing for it in going into this Saturday. That's where the bummer is. That's why I was really upset about that App game. And oh, by the way, 2 of your 3 losses this season are to teams that aren't bowl eligible yet, and they probably won't become bowl eligible, with ULM playing this Saturday and App State playing this Saturday, both looking to get to bowl eligibility. Like, it's just tough. It's just tough.
Yeah, they're not great losses. I think the Georgia Southern one is the most like okay, because Georgia Southern's probably the best of that group. Pretty good at home. JMU's got a bad history in Statesboro. ULM, like JMU fans tried to swing that in the moment, like team was gonna win the West. That team was never gonna win the West. Like that was a bad loss. That's the worst loss that they've taken this year. They should not have lost that game. But then to go up a lot on App State to win the turnover battle 4-0 against Georgia Southern and lose by 14 is crazy. So like there's some stuff where fans have the right to be disappointed based on what they've heard. Well, also, I think most of those fans acknowledge that, like, yeah, it's like a pretty solid year. There's a ton of positives. There's a ton of positives going into year 2. The fan support this year has been incredible in terms of all the sellouts. Like, it's exciting. It's a good football season. I think fans are just bummed because it looked like it could have been a great football season after 4 games.
And I'm very intrigued. Like, I would love to hear the coach's perspective on like the fans being this upset over not having a championship. Like, I bet it kind of rubs them the wrong way, but also at the same time, like, it's also a huge change from Holy Cross, where if at Holy Cross, if you're finishing the season like this, fans are probably like, heck yeah, that's right. Awesome. But here at JMU, you're finishing the season potentially 9-3. You could finish the year 10-3 with a bowl win, the first bowl win in program history. And the fans are going to be sitting there like, well, you didn't compete for a Sun Belt championship. So like, this is a good season, but like, it wasn't great. It wasn't what we all went into the expectations for. So I wonder if coaches kind of think like, I kind of like that added pressure from the fan base. I don't know.
I don't know. I also think the conversation, if they go 10-3 with a bowl win, is going to be much different than it is this week. Like, I think it will be very positive. I don't think there are going to be people who are like, you didn't win a Sun Belt championship.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I mean, the conversation we could be having on this podcast in 7 days from now, after they boat race Marshall, if they boat race Marshall at home and like play the spoiler role, could be vastly different. But like in the moment, it just feels like such a lost opportunity.
I think it'll feel like that forever, but you can still, like, there's still 2 big data points left, like a good Marshall team and a bowl. If you get both of those, I think there's still some pretty positive vibes. Now, if you drop them both or something like at 8-5, you're going to have some fascinating offseason conversations among fans, right? 4-0, and then they would finish 4-5 in the last 9 would not go over great with a lot of people. But so like the last 2 games still matter. I know people are like, it means less, and it does mean less. It does, because you can't play for a championship. It objectively means less. But there's still a lot on the line against Marshall and in the bowl game. I think both those matter, and which is the benefit of going to the FBS and playing these kind of games. So there's still a lot to play for. But yeah, like huge missed opportunities this year, given the ceiling of the team.
Yeah, I mean, they've got some real good players. Like George Pettaway is a P4 talent. Eric O'Neill is a P4 talent. Alonzo Barnett shows flashes of being an elite level quarterback. And if he can figure things out and put it all together, he'll be an elite level quarterback. You have that on your roster. I mean, the play of Chris Sheeran on the back end, the play of Terrence Spence leading the country in picks, that's great to see. Like, there is some really good talent on this roster. And it just feels so weird that there's so many, like, just as a JMU fan, I feel like we haven't had a lot of years of missed opportunities.
Yeah, that's part of it. And then the way they're losing has been frustrating. Like, to go up big against App State and then slowly lose it. The blocked punt is tough. And then 14-3, like the strip sack that flips momentum. Pettaway runs in front of the snap, knocks the ball down, picks it up, flips it back to Barnett. So already bad. Like, already
I think it was a flea flicker.
Already just terrible. Throws it to him, and then it's an immediate strip sack. And it's like, that was just a terrible play that either of them also could have said, you know what, this play's dead. Let's eat it. And they're like, no, let's keep this thing alive. And I think on the replay, I think Dollison's open.
He is.
For a touchdown. Yeah. So, like, if they hold up on the protection, it's a, like, I'll call it like a man-made flea flicker, right? Where it's just like the players decided with a mistake that they were going to run a flea flicker.
I think it was a flea flicker.
I don't think it was.
Based on the protection, there's no reason.
I think Barnett postgame said Pettaway went too fast and ran into the snap.
Okay.
Maybe he was supposed to take it, but he was not supposed to. It wasn't supposed to start in his hands.
Okay.
So whatever it was
that's fair. That's fair. It is insane that, like, if it wasn't a flea flicker, that Pettaway's first instinct.
I think it was supposed to be just like a play action pass or something. And he was like, I'll just give it back to you. so it didn't work well, obviously. But it's frustrating because it's like, that's just your own thing. That's not like App called up a good defense, right? Like, they didn't do anything. You just didn't snap it correctly. That's the kind of stuff, like pre-snap penalties, giving up a block punt because you don't block the A gap. All those things are just so avoidable that's where fans get frustrated, because it's not like you were like, we had a tough portal class, we came in late, and like our corners just can't hold up against these kind of players.
Which I don't expect them to say, in fairness, but like,
I know, but like, that's not what's happening.
No, I know.
That's what's so frustrating. It's like, that would be more acceptable as a fan. It's like, oh, they're just not as talented. Instead, it's like, oh, they just can't snap the ball today for like a quarter. What? They just they just don't want to block on punts.
They just completely just forget how to play football for the entire second quarter and then play excellent football for the rest of the game.
It does not make any sense.
But okay, so we're 20 minutes into this podcast. Let's quickly recap what happened at the game. Just some kind of large data points. I do have some data I want to get to.
Oh, sure.
I think. Are you making fun of my data?
No. I knew you would, and you'd have some data.
Yeah, I love my data. Just we'll talk overall stats of this game, I guess, and then dive into some interesting trends we've seen from road versus home games. Because I think that's my biggest takeaway from this is that JMU cannot play out of state in conference.
Yeah, it's been bad when they go on the road.
Has not been good. So Alonzo finished the game 21 of 36, 232 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a pick. He was sacked 4 times. Petaway ran it 12 times, picking up 82 yards, averaging 6.8 yards per carry. Wayne Knight, 12 attempts for 61 yards, averaging 5.1 yards per carry. Ymir had 5 catches, 60 yards, and a touchdown. Dollison, 4 catches, 49 yards. Pfeiffer had that 37-yard touchdown on what was a fantastic play call. But at the end of the day, a couple untimely turnovers, a blocked punt is really where this game was decided. App State had 2 turnovers. They were +7 on those turnovers in terms of points off of them. They had the strip sack thing, flea flicker thing resulted in App State scoring a touchdown. And then the block punt gave them a touchdown. But on their second true turnover was the interception in the 4th quarter, where then the defense forced a very quick 3-and-out, gave the offense another opportunity. They were unable to score. And after that Josh Pfeiffer 37-yard touchdown, JMU never saw the end zone again.
Yeah, like what? I don't know, man. The offense isn't very good.
The offense is really good and then really bad.
There's no consistency on offense.
I don't understand how there's no consistency. Like my feeble pea brain, my little pea brain in here, fan brain, can't comprehend how you just don't get yards after you got yards all game. Right?
It's
like
too many stupid mistakes, man.
So JMU was flagged 9 times for a lot of yardage. App State was flagged 0. How does that happen? Have you seen that?
Yeah, that was bad officiating. It did not, like, the officiating actually played a significant role.
Right? Okay.
I want to give him some credit there because, like, there's a couple drives where it's like missed face mask on a 3rd down that keeps the drive alive. Like, there's a lot of plays that if they call them correctly.
You said I want to give them credit. I want to shout them out. They did their job. They impacted the game the way they set out to.
No, I want to give JMU some credit because we're like, how could this happen? Like, some of it was legitimately, officiating might have been worth 10 to 14 points. It was that bad throughout the game. So that did not help. But you got to find ways to make up for some of that. Some of that, they're having false starts. Like, that's not like a ref thing.
Although there was one mystery false start.
I thought the right tackle jumped, but it was bad officiating throughout. But there's also some where fans were mad. They're like, "Where's the ineligible man downfield?" And Cam Ross covered up Taylor Thompson, right? So like they just lined up. They lined up wrong. So none of the linemen went down, but Cam Ross lined up incorrectly and negated his own like 45-yard catch. I don't know, man. Like, that stuff's just hard to grasp as a fan, right? Like, it's like a 5th, 6th-year senior.
Yeah.
And they just line up wrong.
Yeah.
In the 11th game of the year. I don't know. It just happens, I guess, but it's not timely on the road. And they're not doing that at home. Like, they're not playing, like, just making, like, mind-numbing mistakes at home. But on the road, they go, and it's just, I don't know what they're doing, but it's not good.
Yeah. It was just a tough game. I do want to share my screen here. Can you see it? Can you see my screen?
Yeah, it's small, but I can see it.
Okay. So middle 8 is something that we've heard Chesney talk about, especially in the beginning of the season. And the middle 8 is defined as the 4 minutes before halftime and the 4 minutes after halftime. And coaches and, us nerds really think that this is a good way to gauge if a game is won or lost, because these are the parts of the game where you can really flip the score like that. I mean, if you score before halftime and you're getting the ball out of half, all of a sudden that's a 14-point swing without the other team even being able to touch the ball. Or if you get a stop, this is just where a game can really turn on its head in a hurry. And so we've seen JMU, specifically in the ODU game and the App State game, so it's really fresh in my mind. Even the ULM game, they started on fire. The first drive, just a hot knife through butter right down the field, absolutely obliterating the opponent and scoring a touchdown, getting out to an early lead. And then it just felt like they went cold. So in those games I mentioned, in ULM, they had a negative 0.65 middle 8 EPA. So for every play that was run offensively for JMU during that time period, they took essentially 0.65 points off the board. And I know I can't see Bennett's face because my screen. Let me see your face. Are you making fun of me?
No, these are good numbers.
Okay. I have my spreadsheet open, so I wasn't fully looking at your face. But so you see negative 0.65. You see it then negative 0.53 against ODU, and then negative 0.3 against App State, which are insane numbers considering the start of the game. You just waltzed down the field and made it look way too easy. And then all of a sudden it just completely flips. And then you look at success rate, and success rate is a really simple metric that measures on first down. Did you gain 50% of the yards necessary for a first down or more? On second down, the same thing. And on third and fourth down, did you gain 100% of the necessary yards for a first down? And you see at home in that middle 8 period, they have a 40.82% success rate. So let's call that 41% of the plays they run in that time frame are successful. On the road, that drops by essentially 4 percentage points down to 37%. And in losses, it drops down to 37% as well. I mean, it just, I think that is where they're losing a lot of these games. It's just going cold in the middle of the game.
Yeah, it's almost more frustrating because Chesney refers to the middle 8.
That's what I'm saying.
He's aware of the middle 8 and like how important it can be. And he mentioned it earlier in the year, I think. So for them to play as badly as they have in that stretch has been really frustrating the last couple of weeks. I don't know what the exact issue is, if they just like have a confidence lapse because some things are going against them in that period or what. But
I wonder how much of it is like you don't have like, and I know we might over hype up how much adjustments matter in a game, but it feels like there's an adjustment made by the other team after they see the opening script, after they see the opening 10 to 15 plays. There's an adjustment made, and then there's no adjustment made for the adjustment. And I could be overhyping and over making adjustments be worth a lot more than they actually are in game. Because how many adjustments are you actually able to make? How many things are you actually able to do in the middle of a game? So I'm not entirely sure there, but it feels like they've got that script down. But then the sequencing once they get off script is where things kind of go haywire, because you see that sequencing like on that flea flicker fumble. It was successful run, successful run, successful run, successful run. Like by success rate, they were at a 100% success rate when running the ball on that drive. And then the very first play that they do that's not running it, they get, if it's a flea flicker, they're getting a little tricky. If it's not a flea flicker, it's a play action where they're trying to capitalize off of that running success. But it's on first down and you're taking a deep shot. And in my opinion, first down, when you're looking for explosives, 1st and 10 isn't when you're trying to look for the deep ball, because then you're setting yourself behind the sticks and it's 2nd and long. And maybe I'm getting way too armchair coach, Monday morning quarterback with it all. But this is where this loss took me. Just a lot of places where I was thinking, if they did this differently, it's different. And I know I'm not a coach. Delvin says this onto the house. They're dealing with a lot more information than we are. So take all of that into account. This is just me kind of letting out my thoughts after that game.
Yeah. I don't know how you go up 14-0 and then get outscored 34-6. So that, like, I'm not gonna be able to process that.
Especially with like the opening drive, you go through them like butter, and then, or a hot knife through butter. I don't know how you would go through someone.
You go through them like butter, like they got IBS or something. They had a little too much butter.
Yeah, exactly. One too many beers with it too.
Exactly.
You do that to them on the first drive, and then was it the next drive where they do the play action QB draw thing that is like a weird pop?
No, they had a punt in there. I think they forced like 2 quick stops. So they actually had 2. Yes, it was touchdown, punt, touchdown. So the defense was playing great. They went punt, field goal for App. So 3 straight punts to open the game.
But just really funny that your first 14 points seemingly came with ease, and then boom. And then your offense is like, how do we move the ball again? Although I will say a lot of those drives were killed by phantom calls, phantom referees.
Yeah, I mean, it was not great from an officiating standpoint. It's just like, how do you lose by 14 points when you're up 14-0?
Yeah. So with the loss, it takes JMU out of the Sun Belt East race. It comes down to Southern and Marshall. Marshall needs to beat JMU to make the East, to make the championship game as the representative from the East. Southern needs JMU to win, and Southern also needs to win. And in that case, then Southern will be the representative from the East in the Sun Belt championship game. Kind of a bummer that the Dukes' only role in this game is spoiler.
Yeah, it is. Like, I think there was a lot of hype about what this game could mean. And when you're up 14-0, you're looking at other scores, you're looking at other scenarios, and then you get to the fourth quarter and you're like, all right, we need to score a touchdown, get the onside kick, score another touchdown. It's like, how does that happen?
Your mind goes from, wow, we're going to be playing for a Sun Belt East championship in Bridgeforth against Marshall. And then you're thinking, okay, we need to stop, we need to score, stop, and score. And then you're thinking, we need a score, an onside kick, and a score. And then you're thinking, we need a miracle from God himself.
Man, what a week. What a week of football.
Man, at least your Lions won and my Seahawks won.
Lions are built different.
That's true. So JMU will host Marshall this Saturday in Bridgeforth, looking to finish the year off perfect at home. Any major takeaways or expectations for this Marshall game? They got a really dynamic quarterback that kind of brings me a little worry.
Yeah, I don't know. And
You're so dejected. You're
like, let's see what happens.
Play a game.
Let's see. Yeah, basically, let's see what happens. I don't know what to expect from this team. I don't know. I like to see them take it really seriously and try to come out of there with a win. I think, like, it's such an old man take, but like was kind of bothered by some of the. I'm getting a little.
Dogs.
I was getting bothered by the leash dogs and some of the energy stuff where it's like always staying positive on the sideline. It's like I know they're always talking about staying positive, man. They ebb and flow with the emotions of a game more than I've seen most teams on the road. Like when things are going well, they're cruising. When things are not going well, they look like they're shell-shocked.
Did you see Barnett's reaction to the fumble? The strip sack fumble on the flea flicker?
So mad.
I was worried he broke his hand.
Yeah, he's slamming on the ground. And I get his frustration because, like, I think he knew he had him for a touchdown.
Yeah.
And it was like 21-3. Instead, they end up losing. But it's also one where, like, you're still up. So, like, everybody take a deep breath, rally, and keep fighting. Instead, it's like, we missed our chance. And they just, like, crumble. And, yeah, I don't, like, this is an old man take. I didn't like the leash dog thing. I thought it was a little corny. That's not a Signetti thing. I wouldn't imagine. Thought it was corny. It rubbed me the wrong way that Jacob Dobbs was holding him back, dressed up, and then didn't play in the game. That was just weird to me. I like Jacob Dobbs is awesome. They miss his presence. I just found it all very strange. And like, I don't know. I would just like them to be like slightly more serious. And I feel okay making that take more so in 2024 than like 2018 because one, the athletic department claims they're basically a P4, and two, a lot of the dudes are getting paid. Not a ton, but it's less of like a fun thing that they're doing and more of like the athletic department is asking me to pay players, right? In like a week, they're going to have a bunch of campaigns where they want us to give money so that they can go out and get players. So I think it's okay for fans to be like, maybe take it a little seriously. And I'm not saying they're not taking it seriously, but just like, if you're going to do the dog thing, don't put it on the internet then. I don't know. The dog thing really pissed me off. That's just like an old man take, but just so unnecessary, I thought.
Check out To the House with JMU Hall of Famer Delvin Joyce. To the House drops every Monday, and it's bringing you the best content around JMU football. Delvin gives his takes and his insights on everything happening around JMU football. To the House, new episodes drop every Monday. Subscribe to the JMU Sports News Network to never miss an episode. I'm really upset I backed down from my take when they were up 14-3 because before the game, I texted you and Dom that video and I said, we lost. That was all I said. I sent the video and I said, we lost. And then we got up 14-0, 14-3. And I was like, we're the best ever. We're leash dogs. You can't contain us. Although the leash dogs makes no sense because like you're saying you can be contained, right? Like if you are a leashed dog, in theory, you are being held back. And isn't the thought of being a ferocious dog the fact that you're like this dog that can't
I think it was like he is about to be unleashed. And in fairness, like Eric O'Neill was awesome. Okay. So if anyone could be the leash dog, it's Eric O'Neill.
So your preseason take, your preseason transfer portal take of Eric O'Neill might be one of your best takes of all time. I'm just going to go out there.
He's a stud. So like he's allowed to do it. It just felt cringeworthy. And then people like in the replies immediately were like, we better win the game now. Like I think more so, I guess my issue is that it was posted where it's like, there's no way that goes well. Because if they win the game, fans aren't like, look at us, we were pregame dogs, right? That's not like, there's no positive.
There's no
win.
If
you lose, that App State fans are like sick. And then they get to come in and be like, they were doing this before the game and then lost by 14.
Something I learned, and it was drilled into my head when I worked at CBS Sports. You got to measure how much risk and how much reward is with every post, and if it's worth the risk. And a lot of times, a post is not worth the risk. The reward is just not good enough. Because you got to question to yourself the same thing that you just said. What exactly is the reward? What's the best outcome if this goes perfectly? And that does not outweigh the risk. And I'm just saying that involves everything in life. You got to weigh the risk to the reward. In this one, the risk vastly outweighed the reward. That's when you keep in your drafts. I'm all for the amazing social content that has been around this team. But man, leash dogs just can't go well. Can't go well. And now we're being mocked by App State fans. They found it, folks. And JMU fans.
And
I'm one of them.
I'm not against them having fun.
I am. Buckle up, play a football game, take off the helmet, and then go back to being a student. Then every Friday, get ready, do your prep. On Saturday, you got to go play a football game. Don't have fun. Win it. For me, the fan, this is all sarcasm, by the way. Yes, it's all about having fun, but like, don't post it.
Fun is good. Fun is good. I wonder, though, if like the fun, every day is the best day of your life thing is a lot easier to do when everyone's supporting you in Bridgeforth compared to when you're getting snowballs in the helmet pregame against App. You know what I mean? Where it's like every day is the best day of your life. Just chuck a snowball at your head. Like, no, it's not. That sucks. Like the refs are against you. Coach. You got a snowball in the head. You're blowing a lead to a rival. You got strip sacked. Like when Alonzo Barnett's hitting the turf, did it look like the best day of his life? No. So I think some of that messaging doesn't totally work. I think some of it needs to be like, you got to go out there and treat it like a business trip with a more serious. I think that would be helpful on the road, honestly. Like I think, and they seem kind of too nice about the snowballs where Chesney's like,
this is a rivalry. I wanted him to go up to that press conference and be like, on bad words coming up, just in case. I wanted him to go up to the press conference table and be like, those fucks, how dare they hit us in the head with a snowball? This is unsportsmanlike. This is I wish you would have called out the referees for not throwing a flag. If the Sun Belt makes a big stink in the preseason about no streamers may end up on the field, if one singular streamer ends up on the field, it's a 15-yard penalty. Have this be your warning. And then what? Snowballs are being thrown at players. All right, fine. I guess, quote unquote, they were having fun with it when they had their helmets on in the walkway, and some players were throwing snowballs back, which is a very normal response to having ice pelted at you from above. I saw some App State fans say that. Some App State fans were like, well, your team was throwing them back at us. And it's like, yeah, no shit. You're standing from above, throwing into a tunnel. You're shooting fish in a barrel. Of course, they're going to try and like defend themselves a little bit. But like, you would see it on the broadcast. The ball would be snapped and you would see a snowball come in. And like that impacts the play. And there's no flag for it. That is literally a flag. That is a penalty. Like, I'm not crazy. Like that is a penalty.
Yeah, you're lined up a receiver. You got a snowball landing at your feet and like splashing in.
And I just wish Chesney was just like, you know what? Screw those kids. That's just terrible. I hate that. That's unsportsmanlike. That goes against, like, I wish he would have railed into the students.
I guess that's my thing. And like, I know that he's a different person, but that's sort of where I think some fans maybe vibe a little differently. We're like, I don't think that every day that I've had in my life has been the best day. I think that the snowball thing was crap. And I also think like earlier in the year, do you remember when Biff Poggi was mad they scored a late touchdown?
Yeah.
And Chesney was like, yeah, we couldn't have not rubbed it in. He should have said, you know what, Biff, you're about to be fired in 8 weeks. You're a fucking clown. Like, nice shirt, you tool. You suck. Like, I want a little of that. I want a little more mean from James,
that's what I like
especially
from
on the
Signetti.
road. Yes,
That's what I like from
especially on
Signetti.
the road. Where Signetti's vibe on the road for like West Coast trips, and he said it for the UCLA game. This is what they did for Utah State. He's like, we show up late, we go in, we play the game, we kick their ass, we fly home. Like, I want more of that. I want more of like, it's not like a best day of your life. It's like, you can hit us with snowballs, but we're going to go cook your offensive line for 4 quarters. Like, a little more mean on the road, I think would be helpful, because it's really easy to be ultra positive, stay in it, let's get after it when you've got streamers flying and 25,000 fans supporting you. But when you're in some random town, and this is more true of like ULM, I guess, but like when you're at some of these tiny little towns, Statesboro, and you're going into these like rural South environments, it's not like a great vibe. It's probably not going to be the best day of your life. But get out of there with a win and then come home and have the best day of your life.
I think JMU should have had a designated fall guy in this game and sent him into the stands to beat up the students.
Yeah, sort of ripping snowballs back.
You just
throughout the
like
game.
the scene in Elf.
Yeah.
Just give him a bunch and just have him go at it, throw him back.
I just want a little more mean streak too. Like with Ricky Ronnie, like yelling F you across the field. Like, it'd be cool if Chesney, when he did the handshake, pulled him in, like wouldn't let him go, I want some psycho stuff from Bob.
Yeah. Granted, that's not his personality at all. And like,
then get a psycho on staff.
Bennett just wants a psycho.
Have a
Bennett,
staff
do you want to be on staff and be the
I
staff
could be the
psycho?
staff psycho. Yeah, I would be happy to be the staff psycho. I think I need to get a lot bigger to be the said staff psycho.
You need my size, but your psychoness.
But the staff psycho is valuable. So I do think they should look into a staff psycho. It could also be a strength coach that's just crazy on the sideline. You know how some teams have just the rip guy who's like got too much energy and is like hitting his head into helmets, something like that.
Sean Elliott.
And they could, Sean Elliott, but just for road games.
I love it. Where do you want to go from here? You want to? Oh, we got to talk quick injury update. No big injuries came out of that game, right?
I don't know. I'm still thinking about the psychos. Who's your psycho? But no, I think they're reasonably healthy. Like, go beat Marshall. That'd be cool. And then
maybe if Tyshawn comes back, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on there.
We'll see.
But yeah, we'll see. We'll see. I don't know. I'm just I want some mean
you want psychos. Man.
I want psychos, man. I feel like JMU had psycho. Signetti was a psycho.
I also feel like we've had just like Jimmy Moreland was a psycho.
Mike Houston was a psycho.
I'm like,
right? I think JMU has started to really crave psychos, and we need more psychos.
McLeod low-key a psycho last year.
Maybe it could be Bob Sr. Could Bob Sr. be the psycho?
Maybe Bob Jr.
It would have been pretty sick if Bob Sr. just like, he's just, encouraging him on the sideline, but then turns and just pelts a snowball at some like random fan's face. That's the kind of vibe I'm looking for.
I love it.
Well, hopefully we get there.
All right. You want to take us to news or snooze?
I didn't prep anything for news or snooze.
All right.
But yes, because Cinnamon Bear, I will prep something.
I'll vaunt. What is the word?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know what you're trying to say.
I don't know either. News or snooze presented by Cinnamon Bear Bakery and Delery.
Yeah.
Cinnamon Bear Bakery and Deli, right across the street from the Atlantic Union Bank Center, next to that Costco over there on the east side of campus. Next time you're in Harrisonburg, be sure to check out Cinnamon Bear. Tell them we sent you, and get some delicious pastries, some delicious food, and get set for your next tailgate. If you're going to JMU on Saturday, 8 p.m., get there a little early. Check out Cinnamon Bear before they close, right across the street from the Atlantic Union Bank Center. What's news or snooze?
Okay, news or snooze is a undefeated home record. News or snooze?
I think it's news, but on the verge of being snooze.
It's a little spin zone because they lost, right?
Yeah, but it is the first time they've done it at the FBS era.
That's true.
Like, you lost a heartbreaker to App State last year. The Marshall game with Billy Atkins playing, you lost in 2022. So it does mean something. And it is cool that it's taking a step forward to getting closer to the double-digit wins you want. I don't think it's like awesome we're like, this is awesome. You know, it's cool, but it's not awesome.
Okay. 3 block punts in one season. News or snooze?
So bad. Newsworthy. Not the same. Not the same. Not the same. Totally not the same.
We're getting them blocked for a lot of different reasons.
Got to figure out a way to stop. We got to figure out a way. Who's doing this? Chesney's at the podium acting like the Tim Robinson sketch. We all got to figure out who's doing this. Sir, you're wearing the hot dog costume, and it's a hot dog car crashed into the building. We've all got to find out. We all got to work together and figure out who did this. That's what Chesney was like in the postgame. They didn't block the A gap. Yeah, you're the coach, man. Like, why didn't they block the A gap?
That seems like a critical part of punt.
And the other one, Jacob Dobbs was out, and so he didn't communicate the assignment, and so it was a missed
What do you
assignment.
mean we can't block punts if Dobbs is out?
Also, Jacob Dobbs
He's
has been
out of
dressed.
eligibility.
Jacob Dobbs has been dressed every game and hasn't played since being injured in a game that he re-entered in.
Could he be the psycho?
According to Chesney, again, was it the state game or was it the Southern Miss game? I think it was the state game.
Yeah.
It was the state game. He was good enough to play if he really needed to. It was essentially what Chesney said.
Yeah.
He hasn't played. Sorry. That
doesn't make any sense.
I hate when coaches aren't truthful about injuries. Which is totally their right. It's totally their right. They're allowed to. They are not required to by any person to say stuff. But it is newsworthy. It's a bummer. Like it's not good. You got to figure out a way to not have that because all of them have resulted in points. In like UNC wasn't necessarily a close game, but like ODU, you gave them a free 7 points in a 3-point win. And App State, you gave them a free 7 points in a 14-point loss. Like, how different is that game when you're driving late with first and goal down 7 rather than first and goal down 14 with 3 minutes left?
Right. That's obviously not good. Okay. News or snooze? 24. I want to make sure. Yeah, 24 carries for Petaway and Knight.
That number needs to be higher. Am I crazy for that?
24 for 144.
Like they were averaging, Wayne Knight averaged 5.1 yards per carry. George Petaway averaged 6.8. I feel like that number's got to be higher. And I know you were down, but at some point you're averaging 6 yards per carry and you're averaging, let me quickly do the math here. You're averaging essentially 6 yards per carry on every run. You're averaging 6.4 yards per pass. And in theory, a completed pass also will keep the clock running. There was still plenty of time on the clock for you to continue running it. They were running it effectively. I think you should have kept running it. But again, Monday morning quarterbacking it, Monday morning coaching it. That's just my approach.
They had they had it going, and then they didn't have it going.
A mind-boggling game, but
just so many plays. Like they got 4th and inches at their own territory. They go for a quarterback sneak, get it, and the next play is a 65-yard touchdown pass, and it's like, what?
And he almost didn't get it. Like on that play.
I know, and it looked like they weren't going to do it. That was ball. I don't think they thought he was going to do it. That was gutsy. And then they get the ball. They go into no huddle. They somehow like stall immediately and then get a punt blocked for a touchdown. Ugh.
House of Horrors. Boone is a house of horrors. We'll get him at our place next year.
Better be a psycho on staff. That's all I'm gonna say.
You need a psycho. Men's basketball, they have a psycho by the name of Bryce Lindsey.
Yeah, good player.
You like that segue?
I don't know if is he a true psycho or just a bucket?
He's just a bucket. What he did, he's averaging 14.4 points per game, which is second best on the team. He's shooting at a 52% clip, 48% clip from behind the arc, and he went nuclear against UIC. 10 for 11 from the floor, 5 of 6 from deep, 3 for 3 from the free throw line, 5 rebounds, 2 assists. He's had 2 assists every game so far this season. He then dropped 17 against UC San Diego in a loss and 11 against Jacksonville State. That is now 3 straight games, 4 overall in double figures.
Nice little trip to Florida for them. They won 2 out of 3. UC San Diego is nice. UC San Diego ended up winning this tournament. I got to pull up the final of they played Toledo in the final, and it was brutal for Toledo.
I do have a question.
Yeah.
If an event occurs on Baller TV and no one can watch it, did the event really occur?
When you win 2 of 3, yes.
Okay, but if you had lost 2 of 3, then
no. Okay. They beat Toledo by 35. They beat them 80-45. So they're very good this year. Their UC San Diego is 5-2. They've moved up to 99th in KenPom, so it's like a top 100 team at the moment. JMU's 145. They're 4-3. I think they've been solid this year for the most part. I mean, a couple road losses to tough teams, and then a neutral site loss to a tough team. So yeah, there's give them some time, because last year's schedule outside of Michigan State was a joke. So they got the Michigan State game. They stole the Kent State game that they had no business winning in the second game. And then they went on this run against what I would describe as just really garbage teams for like the entire season. So it's a harder schedule this year, which is why they're going to take more losses, and it's a different team. But give them time. They got Mason on Friday in a game that's very winnable at home. Then they got a couple more home games before going to Wake Forest, and Wake's not looked all that great this year. So they got a chance to go on a nice little run here.
Yeah, this 3-game stretch here, Mason, ETSU, Utah Valley, 3 not horrible teams, not 3 world beaters at the mid-major level, but 3 good enough teams all at home. This is their first D1 home game since the home opener, so it's been a long time since they played a Division I team inside the Atlantic Union Bank Center. It's a good little mini run here in the non-conference slate to kind of get your legs under you. And I think overall it's been a pretty solid start to the season. You would have loved to see them pick up the win at Norfolk, but at the end of the day, I think this team's going to gel and still be excellent by the time Sunbelt play starts in late December.
I think so too. Give them some time.
Women's basketball?
Looking good. 5-1. Only lost it to Notre Dame by 0.5. And Notre Dame does that to a lot of people. They just beat somebody really, really good the other day, and I can't remember who. But Notre Dame's like legit national title contender. JMU has a very fun stretch coming up. They play on Thanksgiving against Northern Arizona. And you're probably like, oh, Northern Arizona? Who the heck are they? They just beat Arizona. That's a great mid-major. And thankfully, for all of us, the games will be on Baller TV. And then Friday they play Florida. So Northern Arizona, Florida, VCU, Texas, Villanova, NC State to wrap up non-conference. That is electric. They're 5-1. I think Chesney. Chesney was saying he'll be happy if they're 4-2. Sean Reagan was saying he'll be happy if they're like 4-2 through this, to be honest with you. And he was kind of just throwing out random records, which is hilarious that he does that. No other coach in the world would do that. But he's like, I don't want to give a record. He's like, but 4-2.
I'm thinking 1-5.
Realistically, I think even like 3-3 and 2-4, you're not that mad. Some of these are going to be really tough. Like I don't think Texas or NC State. I don't know if they'll have much of a chance in either of those. So then you'd have to win all of the other 4 to get to 4-2, in my opinion.
Should be fun. Anything else you want to add before we get up on out of here?
Portal season is starting. A Holy Cross kid entered the portal, and I speculated that he could eventually be a Duke. So we're back. We're back in full swing.
Keep it locked on jmusportsnews.com. We will get an updated 2024 spring transfer portal up and running. You can find that on the right side of our website. That's where
it'll actually be our winter portal.
I hate you. The way you said that sounded so nerdy. Here. Can I ask you a question? Can I make a request?
Oh, yeah.
Can we keep all of our transfer portal stuff in the same portal?
Yeah, I'll do one tracker. It's just, it gets so big. It should be less big this year. Last year
does get so big, but then I got so confused at times.
Last year was too big.
I was trying to figure out. I was like, Chris Fitzgerald, when did he transfer? Okay, was that the cutoff for winter, or is that technically spring? How does that work?
I'll put
Quincy Jenkins, he technically committed in winter, but he didn't sign until spring. Where did Bennett put that guy?
I'll make an Excel sheet that just has names if we need that. Names, weights, positions.
I like the way we do it.
Yeah, but it could be that could just be an extra reference.
You
Just
can
so we
you can
have all the
command
names.
F it.
All right. Okay.
An Excel sheet actually doesn't sound too bad.
I know.
All right. So keep it locked to JMUsportsnews.com for all of
Portal
this.
season.
For everything portal season, everything great. Keep it locked to @Dukes Recruits as well for all things high school commitments and all things portal season, because it's all ramping up in a big way. You good?
Yeah.
Okay. And in the meantime, check us out on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Type in @JMU Sports News in the search bar, and we'll pop right on up. And you can subscribe on YouTube, JMU Sports News Network. There you'll find these full videos along with full video podcasts of To the House, which drops every Monday. You do not want to miss an episode with JMU Hall of Famer Delvin Joyce. Fantastic stuff each and every Monday. Subscribe on YouTube, and you can subscribe to.
Do we want to do listener questions?
Oh, good call. Good call, man.
We probably lost everyone by now, but
This is where
listener questions.
Listener questions.
Let me pull them up.
Oh, I think you already had it pulled up. All right, before we get to listener questions and Bennett continues pulling that up, you can also subscribe to the podcast, JMU Sports News Network, on Apple Podcasts, Spotify Podcasts, or wherever you find podcasts. And if you love the content, even if you like the content, please buy us a coffee, buymeacoffee.com/JMU Sports News, and leave a review. We would greatly appreciate 5 stars wherever you listen. If you write us a funny review, we'll probably read it on the show like we've read a few others. But yeah, that should have been enough talking for Bennett to have pulled up the listener questions. And let's dive into listener questions.
John Goro, does Marshall block a punt this week?
No.
Okay, I'll agree with you. Okay, Justin Reed.
How bad would it be if they allowed 3 blocked punts in 3 weeks?
Really bad. Justin Reed, what are your thoughts on fans saying the team needs to make major changes like a new offensive coordinator or replacing AB3? Seems like too many people are still set with the same FCS mindset or mindset from the FCS days and aren't willing to give the team a chance to improve in the offseason with what they have.
I think they can improve.
Yeah, I don't know that they need a major change. But also, they got to get more consistent on offense next year, regardless of how they do it.
Yeah, they got to get more consistent on offense. It does take time for him to come together. I don't think I'm not in like the camp of saying you got to bench Alonzo and get a new quarterback. Probably bring in a quarterback to compete with him, to drive him to become better. Dean Kennedy has shown flashes of being like a great young offensive mind. He has to figure out at times consistency, because I think that falls on the offensive coordinator. And there's things of that sort, but I'm not in the camp of like, you got to blow it all up and move forward. Like, I would give them another offseason of work together.
Yeah, be a little premature to blow things up every offseason if things don't work.
And they know what they have to work on, right? Like if they go into this offseason and we're having the same issues next year, then I can be a little upset. But right now it's just like, and that's why I was annoyed at the App State loss, not like angry. I was just like, let that slip away. But like,
Yeah. They also, when we talk about like improvements and stuff, they have like the 128th toughest schedule in the country. Like it's a pretty easy schedule. So when people are saying like, this is incredible, they're 8-3. Now, they're playing a pretty easy schedule. And next year's is a lot harder, man. They go, I think it's at Liberty, right?
Yeah.
At Louisville, and then home against Washington State. Plus the Sun Belt schedule, which they still have to play Louisiana from the West. They haven't done that yet, right? It's harder next year. So when we're talking about like need for improvements and like, I think sometimes people take it in a vacuum where they're like, oh, 8-3. It's like, well, with the context of starting 4-0 and playing a pretty soft schedule, there's some disappointment in the 8-3.
Yeah.
Okay. This is from Rusk. Darusk. If you had to point fingers for JMU football's 3 losses, who do you blame more? Play calling / coach decision making, or lack of experience on the team, or road preparation?
I'm pointing the finger, if I have to point a finger, to, I say that like I don't love pointing fingers.
Yeah.
Road preparation. Like the team clearly is just a different team on the road, and that boils down to road preparation. They've shown that they can be elite on the road with a 70-point insane explosion against UNC. They've also shown that they can be elite at home, and they are elite at home, beating up on everyone with an average margin of victory of 30 plus points. So
Yeah.
Clearly the talent is there. Clearly the coaching is there, but the road preparation is what's lacking. And like the jump from FCS Holy Cross to FBS JMU as a top tier group of 5 team and a top tier group of 5 conference, the travel's just different. Like I don't imagine Holy Cross was taking plane trips nearly every weekend.
Yeah, it is different.
So
they'll work on it. They'll get a team cycle. They'll figure it out. Okay. From 83 Duke, would you anticipate any coaching changes for 2025, either leaving for promotions or Coach Chesney wanting to see improvement?
I wouldn't anticipate any coaching changes. However, any coaching changes that happen wouldn't surprise me. And I know that's a political like cop-out answer, but I don't expect anyone to be fired or moved around, but we might see a shakeup with some guys maybe being poached away or things of that sort. But I do not expect anyone to be fired.
Yeah, I would agree. Jeremy Pugh, does JMU maintain all 3 running backs for next year, Petaway, Adey, and Knight? If so, how do you see them splitting time when all healthy?
I think they only keep Petaway or Adey, and I think Knight returns as long as Ymir returns. I think that is a sneaky.
You think one of Petaway or Adey leaves? Or
Yeah, because
is it a day or a die? Why do I not remember?
Adey,
because he hasn't played. You're right.
He hasn't played in 2 months. But I think with them, like both of them want to be the feature back, and I'm not sure that you can have 2 feature backs, especially with the emergence of Wayne Knight. And Joby Mallory might be coming back. He has a year of eligibility remaining after this. So that will be an interesting kind of wrinkle into it all. So I would expect JMU to keep one of Petaway or Adey.
Matt Kashner had 2 questions. Where would you like to see the Dukes go bowling? The Bulls in Alabama would be disappointing unless Liberty was across the field.
I don't want anything Alabama, and I want something that I can reasonably travel to. Like I would love New Orleans, but I don't think I can swing a plane trip next month to New Orleans. But I think I could swing a drive down to Myrtle Beach.
I think any bowl would be fun, to be honest with you.
I'm okay with
Alabama.
Anything. Are you gonna? I wouldn't go to an Alabama bowl even if I could.
I'm not planning on going.
Come with me to the Myrtle Beach Bowl.
We'll see. It depends on the day and stuff with work. Okay.
Oh yeah.
His other question: which players are most likely to explore the portal? Petaway, O'Neal, AB3, Logan.
Yeah. Chauncey had a little bit of a bigger role, right? He was also a captain.
I don't know, man. It's been weird with him. I don't know his snap count.
But I think yes. I think all of them are probably being reached out to already. So I don't think we'll necessarily see them like explore the portal in terms of like entering it and then coming back. I think if any of those guys enter the portal, they will not return. With that being said, all of them are probably weighing their options as we speak and are probably having their agent/NIL agent/parent field questions and field offers. Like those guys will not enter the portal unless they have a guaranteed offer. In how I see the landscape of NIL.
Yeah. Would agree with you. Okay. We got one more submitted through DMs from Tim Lorzing.
Oh, is this the guy that always sends it to us right after we finish recording? Thank you, Tim.
He's
like, got it in on time.
Getting it in on time. His question, I'm going to do the short version that he sent. Thoughts on pausing expand Bridgeforth talk if we can't fill Bridgeforth this weekend? And what is it going to take to change the culture of students and fans getting to games when it isn't always super convenient or we aren't undefeated?
This is a good question because it's an 8 p.m. kick on the Saturday after Thanksgiving. It's going to be cold. It's going to be dark. It's not going to be a fun outdoor experience that Saturday night. And that is a big test on how into it your fans are. I think the expand Bridgeforth talk is going to continue. I think they are putting it in the master plan, and they probably should start exploring options on how they can expand Bridgeforth moving forward. Because for every other game this season, they've had the opportunity to probably sell 2,000 to 5,000 more tickets for those games that they did sell out. And so you're leaving money on the table. And I understand it. I'm in the losing side of this argument. I'm coming around on it. Although my initial argument was never that they shouldn't expand Bridgeforth. It's that we shouldn't expand Bridgeforth year one of FBS when we're winning all of these games. Let's wait. But I think they've done it enough, and I think they've shown it enough where even if you don't have a 100% sellout, even if you get 23, 24,000 into this game, I think it's worthy of it. I do get what you're saying, though, Tim. Like, there's all this talk around us being this great team. We sell out Bridgeforth, but we don't keep Bridgeforth full into the second half. We sell out Bridgeforth when we're undefeated and we have championship hopes on the line. This is the first real game in the JMU FBS era where they're playing a game that only has a little bit of meaning.
Yeah, I'm interested to see this crowd because I think this is one where, like, am out of town. I'm in Florida. I'm not going. If they were like undefeated, 17th in the college football playoff ranking, do I go to this game? Like, do I change my plans to go to this game? Maybe. You know what I mean? So there is that interest of like, okay, if this means everything, there's going to be some people that would go to it. When it means less, how many more people go to it? How many people still show up? I would consider myself in terms of attendance. Like, a lot of things need to line up logistically for me to go to some of these games. Other people are way more diehard about that kind of stuff. Good for them. So I want to see how many people they get. I'm not going to complain because I'm not going to be one of the people there. And I also don't think they'll pause, like expand Bridgeforth, because I think part of the reason they want to expand is because they do view themselves more like a P4, like they've said. So having a facility that looks a little more P4, maybe you host more P4s. If there is another round of realignment, does having a 35,000 stadium instead of 25,000 help you? Probably a little bit. So I think it's more so that compared to like what exactly happens against Marshall. I wouldn't put too much stock into it, but it's going to be interesting if it's like 18,000.
Yeah, very interesting. Have they sold out the student allotment of this game?
I'm not sure. I don't remember them posting that.
I don't think they have.
And I think that's the other thing when we talk about like, almost the fair weather attendance that I like describe for myself. I think students are getting a lot more passionate than they were, but I also think like there are probably, I don't want to throw a number on it, but there are probably a good number of students.
All right, Coach O.
4-2. There are probably a good number of students that would have gone to the game if it was for the East Championship that now might stay home an extra day.
Yeah.
On Thanksgiving break.
Yeah.
I also don't know what the situation. Don't totally blame them.
I don't also know what the campus residential hall situation is.
I assume the home game they would allow it to be open again, right?
They would reopen. I'm just questioning, like, are they reopening them at 6? Are they reopening them at noon on that day? Like, that'll be interesting. I think that'll play a part into it too. Like, do I have to go there immediately, throw my stuff down, and like run to a stadium? But I imagine Residence Life has figured that all out with athletics. That was just me not doing that Google search before the show. All right. Well, if Bennett has nothing else, his stream decided to freeze at the perfect time.
I think
There he is. That's how we finish it out. This has been the JMU Sports News Podcast presented by Bet Online. Be sure to subscribe on YouTube and wherever you find podcasts, the JMU Sports News Network. New episodes of To the House drop every Monday, and episodes of the JMU Sports News Podcast drop in the middle of every week. Keep it locked right here. Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. Never miss an episode. Follow along, and please buy us a coffee. Buymeacoffee.com/JMU Sports News. It helps fund the stream and just random things for the upkeep of the website and things of that sort. You guys have a wonderful rest of your day. See ya, and happy Thanksgiving.